What is up, you guys? This is Dr. D, your college doc. We're talking about eating healthy this video, and we're going to talk about 5 main things. We're going to talk about my evolution. We're going to talk about studies and how there's been a reversal of a lot of chronic diseases, and how we've came as like a human race to we've seen a prevalence of a lot of Western diseases, and we're going to show you some ways and the easiest way to not have to deal with any of those diseases. And so we're going to talk about eating a whole plant-based diet, food. So a lot of rainbow foods. We're going to talk about all that. And then we're going to talk about the health benefits. That's the 4th one. And then 5th are the environmental benefits. So first, we're going to talk about my evolution. So right now I'm currently 18, and when I was growing up, I grew up in a household that had a lot of meat, a lot of processed foods, and I was gaining a lot of weight, and my grandparents, one of them developed diabetes type 2. The other one developed a lactose intolerance. My dad had developed kidney disease and hypertension. And so I was on the verge of being pre-diabetic at age 9 or so. And I was like 150 pounds. I was overweight. And at that point in my life, I was told I was pre-diabetic, and it wasn't a huge eye-opener. I was like, oh crap, I should probably start doing something. And so a couple more years went by, and I was 190 pounds and about 6 foot, and I was still really overweight, and I could see around me that a lot of people were also overweight, and that's largely attributed to eating animal foods and eating saturated fats and eating processed foods. And I want to tell you a quick story. When one summer when I was about 12, I cut out all pork from my diet, and I lost a good 10 pounds over one summer. And my family and family friends started to notice that I've changed, that I've lost some weight, and as a result, I didn't continue that, but I started to learn about that a little bit more when I was in high school. So I played football for 2 years, and that was when I was 190 pounds or so. And around mid-high school, I learned something that changed my life for the future, and it was a pretty riveting experience. It was an awakening. It was something very enlightening about the experience. So I realized this also, that words are powerful. They can give you great information and wisdom, but ultimately it's up to you to realize, it's up to us to realize the strength of those words and realize what those words are saying. So we need to recognize what's actually going on in our reality, in our life, and we need to hold on to certain things, certain habits and paradigms that we've been taught as a society and from our family and friends, and we need to hold on to the parts that make us become better. And food and what we've been putting in our bodies has not been good, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And so for the last couple million years, we've been evolving as a hominid species, and we've been more adaptable to various ecosystems and biomes, and as a result, we can eat a lot more foods, and we can use technology that we developed so that we could hunt more and we could eat foods. The difference is today is that we have a rise of globalization. So we have a lot more access to a variety of healthy foods, and well, there's no need to go hunting in the wild anymore, and unless you have to, which we will talk about in another video maybe. Anyway, so yeah, my family type 2 diabetes, and is so it was adult onset. So obviously, like what my grandparents were eating, obviously contributed towards the to the development of the disease. And all it is a body that's not at ease. And I can tell you right now that we're not meant to have disease. When we're aging, there's this age-related idea that goes along with disease, and the fact is that we don't have to have disease. We can live free of disease. And how do you do that? You do that with a plant-based diet. And there have been thousands of studies done on the benefits of eating a plant-based diet, and I'll put some links down below. But if you want to check out some great videos, I highly recommend nutritionfacts.org, and you could look at some of the studies that the doctor has done. And there's numerous other doctors that are talking about the benefits of a vegan diet. So I'm talking about no milk, no meat, and now we're going to talk about saturated fats. Those foods are filled with saturated fats, are contributing to heart disease, and the animal proteins are linked to almost all cancers, and especially with milk is contributing to prostate cancer. And these animal foods are also the most laden with animal hormones. And so when we're also, not only hormones, also the biomagnification of things like mercury and fish. So going back to my high school experience, to sort of just bring it back to my life story, a wise woman once said, "I like cows alive," and that had a huge impact on me. And afterwards, I still ate meat foods, and it was really difficult for me. For example, I tried to not have any animal foods for a week, and it didn't last that long. And I thought that was because, well, the summer before, it was my sophomore year, I really loved to cook, and I used to marinate meats and all this stuff, and I used to have it in my life all the time. But now we need to understand that these foods are not beneficial, and as much as we have sentimental value in the foods that we're eating, and we use it as a way of social bonding, and as a culture we haven't fully moved towards veganism, but we're moving towards that as a society, especially with the changes in dietary guidelines, which could be influenced by companies from the meat industry and egg industry, etc. But the WHO organization has, and various journals of cardiology, nutrition from around the world have shown that when you have more plant foods in your diet, you're healthier. So we've reversed disease. We talked about the evolution of meat to plants, and we're going to talk about a little bit about the types of foods to eat. So anything that's colorful, you should have in your diet. Essentially, all the color that's in foods is from phytochemicals like beta-carotene that makes carrots orange and dark leafy green vegetables, grain, and blueberries, blue, and etc. And so when you eat this variety of foods, you're having a lot of antioxidants and micronutrients like vitamins and minerals that are essential towards our functioning, and especially with DNA synthesis and with muscle growth. And I'll talk about the biochemical aspects of that in later videos. And so we need to consume a lot more grains, a lot more legumes especially, very good for you, and a lot more starchy vegetables, and a whole lot more fruits. There's been this misconception that fruit is like really has too much sugar, but when you compare like people like who have sugar and who have fruit, you'll see that people who have fruit, who has like, the fiber in the foods, and also the phytochemicals help with the absorption and reduce the sugar spike that's involved when you have refined sugar. So it's essential to not have this refined sugar that's in packaged foods. And if there are no other options, you have to have a lot more fiber in it, and we'll talk about like reading labels in another video. But we're going to talk about salt. But essentially, we've been here for millions of years without salt, and we can continue without salt. And it's only when we started to use that and started to eat a lot more meat-based foods that we've developed all these cancers and heart disease and all these diseases. And so essentially, the rise in saturated fat and animal protein and cholesterol, especially from eggs, are contributing to all our health diseases. And things like acne and things like strokes are not prevalent at all and are rare, if ever, in ancient cultures and in traditional societies. And I largely attribute the rise in diseases to urbanization, and I'm not saying it's bad, but it's brought us together as a culture, which is good, and it's good for our economy, and it's good for bringing us together. But then again, we need to have more regulation, and we need to know what we're putting into our bodies, because every time we eat, our biochemistry literally changes, and we're going to talk about that more. And so, for example, when we have a lot of cholesterol and animal saturated fats, when we're looking at our blood vessels, so this is what it should look like, right? And when it gets filled up, it's like blocking it off. So then it's only like partially allowing blood to flow. And we need blood to flow so that our brain can function, so that our muscles will grow, so that all of our bodily systems work. So if you want to like remember more, for example, if you want to run faster, swim faster, be more efficient in your everyday life, eat more plant-based foods so that your blood vessels can go from looking like this on the typical Western diet to looking like that, so that you get more nutrients to all of your cells. Also, hypertension or high blood pressure is attributed also to salt. And so when it's like this, there's more pressure that's needed to push the blood through. But when it's widened, it's a lot easier. And also when there's a lot of salt that's in our arteries, we need to pump it around more, and it's sort of an adaptation mechanism to alleviate the salt and the damage that does to us. So yeah, that's one thing. And then also free radicals are highly prevalent, and carcinogens is like the word here that you want to gather. And carcinogens are from meat foods, animal foods. And so free radicals go around and they destroy and oxidize our cells. So when you think of an apple that's sitting out in the air, it starts to turn like brownish, and that's because there are free radicals in the air, and we're we're always at risk to this, but when we're actually like putting it into our body, that's like the most potent. And we'll talk about that more. So if you want to be more efficient, if you want to be superhuman, you have to eat healthier, and you have to eat more plant-based foods. And we need to eat a lot less processed foods. So if you think of wheat, and if you think of the refined flour in our stores, the refined flour causes a huge spike in blood sugar. And when you have huge spikes in blood sugar, that's not good for our health. And we'll probably talk about wheat in later videos, but for now, include a lot of whole foods into your diet, whole plant-based foods. Not only is it beneficial to us and will it reverse all these diseases, but we'll become more efficient in terms of our own bodily function, and also we'll be saving the environment. And so when we're saving the environment, when we're on a plant-based diet, we need to think of the trophic levels. So at the top, at the apex of the food chain, people like to call it, are a lot of the predators, like the textbook example is a hawk. And so they eat the like herbivores essentially, and the prey, and then the prey like eat the plant foods. And the higher up in the food chain that you need to eat, the more requirements of the lower levels is required. So if we want to be the most sustainable in terms of our eating habits, we need to stay like closer to the bottom, so that we're not putting. Geez, I'm not wording this right, but we'll talk about this more in future videos. But essentially, we're more efficient in the food chain and in the environment, because we're using a lot less land to feed ourselves, because livestock uses a lot of land, and they use a lot of water. I think it's like 12, 13 times more. And also, it's just better for us, better for the environment. And yeah. And I want to finish it off with a quote from the Bible, which says, "And God said, Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food." Thank you. This is Dr. D, your college doc. I'll see you next time.